Today on the Idiot's Guide, we are continuing our MILF series, episode number 2 for that, 2024, VA Health Care. With an ease score of 90%, that means easy to get needed care or services. You'd assume that it would be easy to get the needed care that you need, right?
I'm not so sure.
We have 9 million veterans using VA healthcare. That means that roughly 900,000 would disagree with that ease score.
Damn straight.
What would you do if you were part of the 10%? I'm your host, Adam Richardson, aka The Profit Hacker, and I'm joined by the man in charge, Mr. Joe Haslam. Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. So this episode, I think, a lot of this, you mentioned I'm probably going to be driving this episode mostly because I'm a veteran and I use VA healthcare. I have for very many years, 15 at least, if not more. And I don't by any means think that I'm an expert, but because I've been using VA for so long, it is something I believe I can speak about and have some knowledge in. One of the biggest things I think is to think, like just giving that math score at the very beginning. When you talk about 1% of 9 million is 900,000 people, is that right? Or 10%, sorry. 10% is 900,000. Yeah, I did the math. I math good. I math good sometimes. My mathing is good. Anyway, I hate to think that that's an okay number because of different organizations that I work for and that I contend with. There are so many different services that are out there, but yet you have this almost government subsidized program that really is in control of your own health. So, there's mental health, there's physical health, there's all sorts of health. Like I was mentioning before we started recording that I went on a hike this morning with a VA recreational therapy program. And so, it was a great hike. I did it with a group of about 15 veterans, and all of some of them are, psychology, individuals that are therapists that are there. So they work for the VA. They're not veterans. But, having that kind of stuff, that's probably the most positive stuff that I have with the VA. But when it comes down to like the medical needs that we all face in our life, there seems to be this distinction between what kind of care you will get versus what kind of care I will get for the same exact problem.
Yep.
And that's where I have an issue. And that is physical health, that is mental health, that is every category when it comes to it. They'll throw, I'm not going to talk about the modality. I'm going to stay away from modalities, stay away from different treatments, but the problem that I run into is just kind of generally speaking, it's long waits. I had a phone call I had to do earlier this week because I was supposed to meet an appointment to meet some new provider stuff. And I called the clinic that it was supposed to be at, and it said your wait time is 34 minutes. Now, nowadays, systems are smart enough. Like, I can order pizza better than this, okay?
It's been 84 years.
Yes, you can. I can attest to that.
But systems are smart enough now to where if you would like a call back, please press whatever button, okay? And we will keep your place in line and call you back when it's about to be answered, right? That's awesome, right? No, it was just 34 minutes. Wait.
Yeah.
So in the military, they use the word hurry up and wait, the phrase hurry up and wait. And it's so common, but that's such a problem that it's like, okay, I know I was just trying to get a hold of my doctor to clarify some stuff, so it wasn't an emergency. And usually at the front end of this is, if it's an emergency, please do this. And so, they have that base covered, but to an extent, But if I have other things to do and I'm trying to figure out a doctor appointment that was supposed to happen right now, and I didn't even get a call till 2 days later, then I'm like, wow, like
Yeah.
here's where I feel like I'm at, like, level of importance, like way down here, you know,
Yeah.
as far as that. So I feel it angers me that how am I supposed to feel when that kind of stuff happens? And it happens often.
Yeah, no, and well, I don't have to deal with it to the same degree. So we often talk about how being a foster parent, adopting my kids, what they get is Medicaid and Medicare, and those are also government-run
Yeah,
programs.
it's
And for one of my daughters, trying to find a therapist that took Medicaid was so difficult.
it is.
And most of the times, what you get are providers that maybe aren't the best. I'm not going to say that all of them are not good, because there are some good ones out there. But usually the good ones on Medicaid or on these government programs, they're booked out to, 3-4 months from now. They're not taking new patients because everyone wants them. And so what you're left with are the ones that aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
Now with private healthcare, there are so many doctors that take it that it's the same percentage of good and bad. It's just all the ones that are good still have open availabilities.
I think that's a good representation of when you're talking about VA, it is government healthcare, which is the same thing.
Yeah.
So when you have government subsidized healthcare, this is the problem that you face. You face an issue where I have a VA therapist. I have had over the last 3 years, I've had 5 therapists. Each time I transition from a therapist to the next one, there's a 4-month gap between sessions. And so it's really difficult because what if life still happens during those 4 months? What do I do? Well, I could go down to the mental health clinic and check myself in. That's great. That's always an option at the VA. Thank goodness. But if that's the only thing that I can do, then I'm forced to go outside of the VA. I'm forced to pay out of pocket because no one, if I have VA, I don't technically have insurance. I have VA. And VA won't see that as care because it's not part of the VA. So it's this double-edged sword. And I want to be like, I want to be careful because the VA has a lot of really good things that they do. Tremendous. It's such a massive machine that to even achieve a 90% score is pretty incredible. Okay? But I always say that's not enough,
Yeah.
right? I don't want a 90% on my PT test. I want 100% on my PT test.
Right.
Okay? I want everything you have. And bend over backwards. Why? Because if I went to my insurance, like paid my insurance, used my insurance, and went to a doctor, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is one of the struggles that I face with my providers that I've always dealt with is I have to bring them a problem and then they will do something about it. And even then, I'm bringing them a problem and I'm fighting for that problem. I'm defending. I'm like, hey, this is happening. This is happening. And they're like,
The sky is
I
falling!
don't know if we can do anything about it. Like, honestly, you're not dead yet. So we don't care. That's how it feels. When I'm having the conversations and I'm negotiating with just my primary care doctor to see somebody about a question that I have about something going on, I'm like, that shouldn't be the issue. My primary care should be the one that goes, yeah, let's do this now, and wave that flag and go running down the hallways with this like, hey, we're going to represent and I'm going to advocate for this care for you. I shouldn't be the only advocate.
Yeah.
In a giant system, and I feel like the VA up where we are here in Utah is right next to the University of Utah, and so a lot of the residents there doing their medical are residents at the VA hospital. So you have a primary care that's assigned to you, and you also have their resident doctor that's a student. And so they come in and they're like, hey, like, I think this is this, and then they're like, but hold on, that's my thoughts. Let me get the actual doctor. And then they come in after a consult, and they come in and they're like, no, you were way off. But, and so I feel like you're just this test dummy, which is ideal for the Idiot's Guide. But, it's still a little terrifying to be like, man, like, you guys poke and prod and you have no clue yet. Like,
Now that happens in the private insurance world as well. So I went to a primary care appointment, and the primary care provider I was seeing, she had a student that was there, and the student came in, and I had a question for him. There was something going on, and he's like, okay, hold on, let me go talk to her about it. I sat in that room for 30 to 40 minutes before he ever came back. While I don't know what they were doing, because I was sitting in this room. I fell asleep in the room while I was waiting for them to come back. And they came back and didn't really have an answer for me.
Startle you awake.
Well, that's just it. I fell asleep and woke up before they came back.
You had a power nap?
Yeah. Waiting for them to show up.
I could have done that when I was on hold.
Yeah, no kidding. But the difference is, at the VA, you just have to deal with it.
Yes.
I stopped going there, and I found a whole new primary care provider office because I have that option with private insurance.
Yeah, I am assigned. So for everything, even referral wise, obviously referral, you're going to refer to a specialist, but you're referred to different specialists that you're given. Your primary care doctor, that is like your initial point of contact for your care, is assigned.
Yeah.
And so instead of it being like, wow, I want to see what this guy does, like, this one specializes in this. Oh, I really like this one's family care. Like, I really like that they've gotten this experience over here. Like, they went to the Congo and gave vaccines for, like, whatever. Okay.
Some kind of background and
Gives me
experience.
some kind of, like, what is that? Biography?
Biographical or background. I don't know what you're going for.
A bio. Well, let's just keep it a
Biography.
bio because there's too many bios. But they're like reading a little thing about what they can do and what they've done.
Yeah.
And you can do that in the like regular traditional insurance industry and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But on the same side is, the VA isn't the only. Like, it's a government program. It's government subsidized, and it's the same thing as Medicare.
It should be government subsidized. You guys went and put your lives on the line so that the rest of us here back home can be safe.
I'm fairly certain that when I signed on that line, it said you will be government subsidized the rest of your life.
I mean, you should get the best care possible. I mean, you went above and beyond what would be asked of any citizen in the United States. You went above and beyond. You chose to go out there and protect not only the citizens of this country, but the citizens of other countries that the United States has decided to protect.
Yeah.
And that says something about these veterans. It deserves more than what the average citizen gets, not less. And I think what happens when you have those programs where you're assigned someone, well, if there's no competitive advantage, then there's no reason to ever be something else. In the private insurance world, when I go and see a primary care provider, they have to have something that makes them better than someone else. Well, that's why I go to them.
Yeah, if you feel like you aren't making any progress, you're just like, I'll go find another one.
Yeah. And if they're a crappy provider, then they're not going to succeed in their private practice. And they won't go anywhere. The ones that are good will, because people will want to go there.
Yeah.
And it's the same, if you don't have the option to weed out those bad providers, because they happen. I'm not saying all providers are bad. It's just there are a certain percentage. You get this anywhere. You go to any company, any industry, anything in the world, you're going to have the top tier and you're going to have the bottom tier. You will always have a bottom tier of anything.
They're in the same logistical level, but they're different tiers as far as personalities and what they do, like
And if you don't have the option to weed out those low scoring providers, then they're always going to be there. And they're going to make it worse for those 900,000 that need the care.
yeah.
And I think that's the problem. I mean, this is the nation of competition. This is the nation of capitalism.
I really shouldn't be weighing the pros and cons of all of the care that I receive. Okay. And granted, there are different levels of veteran care. So VA works like Medicare. If I'm currently, like, even as a combat veteran, it qualifies me for VA care. So for the rest of my life, I can go to the VA and get care. There's a difference, though, in the fact that I am classified as a disabled veteran. So I have a rating from the VA. They've looked at different things in my life and said, wow, we really screwed you up in all of these areas. And here's the grade that we give you for this. And so their math, if you add up all the percentages, is well over 100%, but they don't math good. And so it isn't. It's more, I have a different rating than 100%. I want it to be 100%. But what that does for me versus just, I'm a veteran and I qualify for VA care is that for years and years I did this. And I used VA because it was a care afforded to me without paying insurance premiums. But I had costs to things. If I had prescriptions, there was costs to those prescriptions. I had costs to the care, like clinical visit, like if I go to the doctor. Everything had little costs. No, it wasn't outrageous. I wasn't, like, a major hospitalization wasn't going to just devastate me financially. Thank God. But there's costs associated with it that I can't. And Medicare's the same way. Medicare, like, you can't just go to the doctor and be like, oh, it's free care for life, whatever it is. But it's really cheap.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that because it's really cheap, it's not the best care.
Right.
And, like, just because now I don't pay for it, that's even cheaper. It's still not the best care. So it's still the bottom tier, as you would say.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is although I benefit and I'm grateful for that level of benefit that being a disabled veteran affords me, basically I don't pay for anything anymore when it comes to my care. However, I'm finding that care is limited to whatever their discretion is. So they're going to care about what they think I have from their perspective rather than, me being an advocate, joining hands with my primary care to be an advocate for my health. I find I'm negotiating with my primary care about what is important for my health and what is not. And that is, in my opinion, out of line.
That's just
It is
wrong.
I had a primary care before that was great. They were like, what do you want? Do you want this? You want this? You got this? You're like this? Take care of this. Hey, you want some ibuprofen? I'll give you like 800 bottles of this stuff. I'm like, this is so cool. Like so much. And I loved it. But then I find out that, like, part of the reason why is because they were out the door. They were headed out. And so they were leaving because if they don't pay as great, they can get far more lucrative if they privatize. And so they went private and private practice. And now all of a sudden they're not working for the VA. Now I drop out of the system. I was coming in for an appointment and I find out I've been assigned a new primary care. That primary care put the brakes on everything that I had in motion. And I had to sit down with them and meet with them before they would hit go or allow any of the stuff that was already scheduled to continue its progress. And some of the stuff got stopped. Some of the stuff I didn't make any progress with any further. And I'm like, how do you have that kind of authority to do that for someone else? It's not you. You're talking about someone else in this and their life that you're playing with. And you think you have that kind of authority to do that. And I'm like, that's such a joke. And so, like, I only say that in the sense that's kind of a recent struggle, but that's the 10%. That's the 10% that we're dealing with, where you have these people that, these providers that become complacent.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting okay pay. I mean, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
It's cush. It's a government job, and so you get all the holidays off. You
Well,
know.
and see, I have a problem with that idea. It's a government job. That means you're guaranteed a job whether you suck at it or not.
Sure.
I mean, and that's kind of the idea. Is like, how are we doing this? Why are we not spending? And there's this idea that government needs to spend as on the cheapest option possible because they're using taxpayer money. Well, honestly, as a taxpayer, I would rather the government go out and get the best systems.
Yes.
A few years ago, I found out down in the South, the Southeast quadrant, I don't know what they call it, for Medicare, because I have a client out there who takes Medicare, and Medicare stopped their payments for 2 or 3 months because they were updating their system from DOS. DOS was around when I was a little kid, and the government was still using it because
Yeah.
they didn't spend money to upgrade their
There's
systems.
VA clinics that are the same. They have no idea. I'm like, how do you even access systems? Like,
And you wonder why it is such poor results. You go to the DMV, the reason it's so slow, it's not because you got flash 100-yard dash up there. If you've watched Zootopia, you know that reference.
Dash, 100-yard dash.
It's because their computer systems are so slow.
yeah,
Spend the money. Just government, don't go for the cheapest option. Go for the good computers. Upgrade all your systems. Spend the money. I'll pay the extra $2 in taxes that's aggregated across all the citizens that are benefiting from that increase.
yeah,
Do the best options because honestly, it's going to save me more time. I'm not going to have to wait 2 hours waiting at the DMV to be able to get something done because I paid my $2 in extra taxes to the government to make sure that the systems go faster. It doesn't make any sense to me. And that's how we treat veterans and veteran care. The VA, they go with the cheapest options. They do very little funding. The same thing for teachers. Spend as little as possible.
the running
more.
joke in the military, whenever you're getting something, is like, why is this stuff just breaking? Why is it so terrible? And it's like, oh, I forget, lowest bidder. That's usually what it is. So you get these contracts that, as long as you come in the lowest, like the government's going to be like, yeah, that there's no change once you leave the military and need help. The government's not going to change its motto.
What business, what anyone in the world is just going to go with the cut rate option?
Yeah.
I mean, no one does. I can't remember his first name, but there's a whole TV show, Holmes on Holmes. He's a contractor that goes in and helps people who have been victims of bad contractors. His advice is don't go with the lowest option because they're probably going to be crappy.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the people who go with these cut rate contractors, that's why he has to go in and repair the bad work that was done because they went with the cheap. Why, as a government, is that the policy?
Yeah.
Spend the money. Spend the money. Take care of people. I mean, if I want to go back to good old GW, George Washington Farewell Address, that was exactly what he said. Yes, taxes suck. No one wants to pay them. But you know what? There are times when we need to pay the taxes. They are essential for certain things. And you know what? Pay it.
Yeah. I agree.
You got to.
I agree. And I think, we've been ragging the whole episode on the VA, on particular cares, and it's unfortunately it's true. It's the reality of what's happening. Some good positive things, like I said early on in the episode. Like, I've gone through certain things. I do rec therapy. I got connected with a whole side, and this is like a learning curve that they're going through called whole health. And whole health is more of like honestly, I would say, in short, holistic approaches to a lot of the different things that they worry about care, even nutrition wise. Like I'm meeting with a dietitian from the whole health side to talk about the kinds of foods that I consume and all that kind of stuff. So like there are some really good avenues of areas that are not, they don't fall under this, they're kind of more like the outside holistic hippies that, that don't beat by the same drum that the VA tells them to. And that's cool, especially, and I think my primary care definitely at the time fell under that umbrella. But now, like I ran into this other one that just kind of put the brakes on all the momentum, and I'm like, this is my health. It's not your responsibility, and it's not your right to do that to me physically. So you're gonna tick off a veteran. Is what you're gonna do, and don't tick off a veteran.
Don't mess with veterans.
Don't mess with veterans.
That's
We get angry. We have anger issues before we get there. We have anger issues. Just driving, anger issues. Anyway, there are, there is, let me say, there is an avenue. There's lots of different resources out there that are advocacy programs that you can talk to for particular, especially when I talk about rec therapy. There are so many organizations out there that are kind of piggybacking off of taking care of our veterans, that just getting a referral from your primary care if you are a veteran into rec therapy gets you this laundry list of resources that are available that are not the VA. They aren't funded by the VA. They are outreach organizations that do all sorts of things. Side note, I'm getting a bike because of one of those organizations. I picked up cycling a few months ago and I enjoyed it, but every bike that I've ever purchased has been stolen off of my property. So this one, I'm like, okay, this one's going inside my house. That's the only option for it. But I'm getting it because bikes are ridiculously expensive. So like it's kind of like that where I'm like, awesome. I was looking for some way to supplement that so didn't have to pay full price. And they're like, no, you qualify here. So I'm like, neat. This is so cool. but it's not the VA. It's like this outsource, outbound, sort of outreach programs.
There was a program that I was connected with a few years back, going back to the neurocognitive work that I do on the side, up at Hill Air Force Base, called Wingman Advocates, and they're a group that their mission is to find support outside of the normal systems for veterans and for active military personnel where the existing systems don't work.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so sad that you have to have an organization that seeks out programs outside of the government provided programs in order to get the full amount of help that they need.
But a lot of the organizations, I'm part of one that work directly and hold the VA accountable for particular things. It's the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans. They actually have, along with the other veteran organizations, VFW, Foreign Legion, are all different entities or organizations that operate in similar ways. Sometimes there's some very, very big differences between those organizations, but ultimately it is meant to, continue to grow some of that camaraderie, provide the kind of support for, other veterans who experience what you're experiencing, whether that's struggles with healthcare or just trying to get to the point where you have good healthcare. The other thing that, especially I've learned this because of the DAV and its strong advocacy for this is we have our national commander that every single year meets before Congress and outlines this year's issues that we have with the VA, like the major stuff that all of the disabled American veterans, all the chapters across the country submit, and they get this laundry list of like, hey guys, these are like the biggest problems, but it's still always a big list, and we come before Congress and speak, and it affects change. And we have within our own, the DAV has a ranking system called the Commanders Action Network, I think is what it's called, or something like that. and essentially our national commander will send a notice out to all of us saying, hey, this is something that's going before Congress in the next session, and we want to make sure that it's presented. And a lot of it's like we have, I think we're like 800,000 members strong. So so it goes out to all of them that are signed up for this. And whenever it does, all we hit is take action now. We click on the link and it puts my name on the top of a letter that goes to my district senator. So,
Nice.
and so it's literally just this. That is one way to affect change in what's going on with the VA is talk to your talk to the government. Like even for Medicare,
Yeah.
same category. Talk to your senator, talk to your congressman, and that's one effective way of doing it.
Now I'm going to make this, call to action to everyone out there. The veterans are already going through this. They already have their systems to be able to do this. So if you're a veteran, you should have a means. You should be able to see this. If you're not part of any of these groups, become a part of these groups to help your brothers in arms who need this kind of help. For the majority of you that are not veterans, there are ways for you to reach out. Reach out to your congressman. Reach out to your representatives of your state. Right now, we're entering an election year. Okay, if your senator's up for election, then make sure this is a part of that because these veterans have done a lot for us, a lot for us, a lot that we don't even know about. Every 2 years, the House of Representatives is up for election. There are people that are vying for your vote right now. I don't care what political affiliation you are. Look at who that person is who is vying for your vote and make sure that they put the rights of veterans, veteran health care as a priority in their campaign. You're reaching out to them, you're writing a letter is going to make that happen. They have websites where you can go to, send them an email. There's always a contact us, always something like that. Reach out, do something to support these veterans that have put their lives on the line for us. We are a free nation today because of what these veterans have done.
One of the last little mention here for veterans, if you're dealing with similar situations that I talked about, and if you have or have had in the past, or know a veteran that deals with this currently, the VA has a program that kind of operates like accountability within their organization. That if you truly aren't jiving well with your provider, most like I've only done this with my primary care. With mental health, it was a 4 month process no matter what I did. So if I wasn't jiving with it, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna get back in line and hurry up and wait. But when it came to my primary care, I reached out. I did a Google search for VA Patient Advocacy, and it's a whole division under them that essentially operates as you can get it on va.gov and find it there. You can sign in if you're part of the VA organization, and message them directly. And I just said, hey, look, this is what I feel like I'm struggling with. I've been dealing with this. It feels like I'm just not getting the advocacy level that I was getting from this. And within an hour, I got a phone call from them to reschedule to meet a new primary care provider. So I have an appointment next week to actually have that conversation. So like it was very, very fast. It was very quick. It was a good process, and I was really impressed at, the idea behind this. That is there for that to make sure that, the VA has some kind of accountability, that if you're just a piece of crap, like these people have a place, these veterans have a place to go and say like, hey, that guy's a piece of crap. So, but like the reality is if we want to affect change, not just in veterans, not just in Medicaid, government subsidized help is always messy and cheap, and it's gross, and it's not going to be the best. And I wish we could do something to change that, but like I think that uh, I think it's just it is what it is. It's always kind of had that same look. But that being said, this episode was about veteran care and veteran stuff, and I think there is a tremendous part of that. I would give other divisions of that ease of use the ease score would probably be significantly greater, or that's probably the reason why it's so high, is because of those outer programs like whole health and rec therapy, because those are the ones that I've seen go above and beyond. And but yeah, the main core is just aggravating. It's always a frustration. Anyway, we've reached the end of our show, and I think, as always, it's something to I hope that this is something that's kind of been valuable and gives you some resources to reach out to, check in on your veterans all the time, like everyone, your friends, even if they're not a veteran, check in on your friends. But yes, we've reached the end of our show. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe if you like what we're talking about, or if you don't, like us anyways. We like the subscriptions. Life's too short, so keep laughing, keep learning, and remember, idiots have way more fun.
Check your shoes.